Welcome back. You are watching Metropole TV, the first 24-hour business channel in Kenya and the region. This is Business Center, where we are taking a deeper perspective on matters agribusiness. And in studio, I have Okesekere Ojepat, the CEO, Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya. We have a lot to talk about matters fresh produce right here in Kenya. Karibu sana, Okesekere, for making time for us.
Thank you.
Where are we right now? What's the state of fresh produce in Kenya?
We are in Kenya. We are feeding the world, starting from home. We are looking at both the domestic and the export market. I can confirm that we have remained resilient. Even with COVID, we have remained very resilient. We have remained profitable. And we are looking at growing our exports to this 10% annually going forward.
Great.
Yeah.
This morning you launched the report on the state of avocados.
Yeah.
You know, highly nutritious fruit here,
Yeah.
much loved in Kenya.
Yeah.
What's the state of this fruit?
Thank you for asking that, Victoria. I first of all have to correct a notion where people think avocado is another coil business. Avocado is a fruit that gives us multiple reasons to have it. We're getting different benefits. The first benefit is that this is a fruit that ordinarily you will eat through your githeris, and people are doing juices. We have people who have gone into oils, and the different benefits that we're getting from avocado. And then we have benefits in terms of the environment. We are currently planting so many fruit trees that are helping us to build the 10% forest cover that the world recommends. And if we continue in this trajectory, then we should be able to achieve our 10% forest cover, perhaps in the next 7 years or less. But most importantly is that this is a fruit that has brought us money, both in the families and the country. This morning, we have spoken about the state of avocado in Kenya. Just to take you back, last year, we exported 59 metric tons of 59,000 metric tons of avo that was worth 10.6 billion shillings. This year, by the end of October, we had already exported that 68,000 metric tons worth 14 billion Kenyan shillings. And we still have this last quarter to account for, meaning that we have jumped from where we were to we are looking at very good growth when it comes to avocado. About 5 years ago, 7 to 5 years ago, from about 7 years ago, particularly 5 years ago, we went into massive campaign in the country to encourage Kenyans to plant avocado. And people thought avocado is all about export, export, export. We never talked about oil. We never talked about the pulp. We never talked about the domestic market, the nutritive value of it. But in the recent past, we've seen avocado now being grown even in non-traditional growing areas, which is a good thing for us. But critically, why we had this discussion this morning is the negative publicity that has been surrounding the Kenyan horticulture industry. And in the recent past, we've had a lot of bashing when it comes to avocado, the quality. And at one point, people are talking about unethical production systems, which we want to object strongly. That you don't wake up in the morning and find a reason to negatively bust the country called Kenya, blast them, and just say, we have a problem. And yet we know that we planted multiple number of trees going forward. Millions are being planted. So much land is being opened up. And we are looking at a good production going forward in terms of volumes that will end up doubling or even tripling what we had 5 years ago. That means that we are positioning this country, Kenya, to be the lead avocado export in the world. We currently ranked, by 2018, we're still ranked at number 8 globally, and number 1 in Africa. And you can be assured that the competition all over the world will not want to see us like a small country somewhere in Africa growing this big. But we are resilient. We have chosen the path of consistent supply, ensuring that our quality is followed, ensuring that we have consistent in terms of the quality of fruits, seedlings that we distribute. And we are in a position where we wouldn't like to see a situation like what we've done. By tomorrow, we're actually going to close the season of avocado tomorrow and resume exports sometime in February next year. That does not mean that we are not going to export, but it means that every other person that wants to export will have to ensure that their orchards are clearly inspected and their fruits are tested to ensure that the maturity level is the right quality before we export. If not, then we'll end up sending fruits that are not mature enough. That also then comes back to us in terms of quality and revenue. So where we are in a good place as a country. There's a big market growing. There is opportunity to export, and there's opportunity to turn the avocado in the value chain into a real business case in the country. As I said, under a tree, there will be a shade. There will be a fruit for your nutrition. There will be money for your economy, and therefore this becomes a good fruit. Then it's a fruit that you can harvest for a long time, as opposed to other many fruits that only come in a flash of a season. So that's where we are with avocado. And of course, then when we talk about avocado, I know that one of the questions that will come out is, what is this about Kakuzi? Because we had in the marketplace or UK supermarkets have withdrawn avocado, Kakuzi avocado from the market. But I also want to say here clearly that, listen, for long we knew there are two avocado varieties in avocado qualities from Kenya. There was Kakuzi avocado and there was Kenyan avocado. Why? Because Kakuzi avocado then was ranked the top in the world. And Kakuzi has the social standards, the SMETA, Global Gap, BRC, name all those standards. I know that there's a case going on, and for now, the county government of Murang'a has opened the door to investigate, and they have said, listen, come forth anybody who has any issues. And we know that the Inspector General of Police has a case, and they say, listen, open this space, anybody who has issue. But what sickens me and what makes me feel very uncomfortable and sometimes very annoyed is when you wake up in the morning and all you can do is demonize the country because of something that has not been confirmed, has not been proved. And we all go around and perhaps at this point in time just hit you a bit is when the media picks it up and everybody reports things without facts. So we needed to put a record straight that the avocado industry in Kenya is not going to be let to go down. And as industry champions and industry generals, we have agreed on principle that we will have to tell our Kenyan story, how we grow our avocados in the most natural way, in a sustainable way. Avocado is currently employing so many people who are Kenyans. Avocado is a fruit that has brought nutritional balance, and it's addressing the nutritional issues in the country. And because we are growing, we will not want to see the negativity come forward and discourage people and also put us in a world of a position where we have fruits and we have no market just because somebody went out to the market and spoke ill about this. But I can confidently tell you from the figures I've given you, last year, by the end of the year, we had sold 59,000 metric tons worth 10.6 billion. 3/4 of this year, we have sold 68 metric tons that is worth 14 billion shillings. And we haven't finished the last quarter. That means it's growth. That means it's a place we need to invest. And it's important that we jealously guard and protect the avocado industry.
Right, and okay, Secretary, 14 billion shillings, that is not small money in just the last 3 quarters and the remaining last bit of it. I'm sure you're looking at China that opened their arms to Kenyan avocados, but then there were some of the restrictions, you know, like don't bring the avocados if they're not frozen. Yeah. I mean, has this been resolved? Are we now selling avocados freely in China, or we still cannot comply to this?
I will want to say this. In this very studio, one time I was interviewed, and I said this, that Kenya goofed, and I repeat, we goofed on a negotiating table. I remember the CEO, Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya, the CEO, Kenya Flour Council, and myself, we wrote a document and advised the government of the day. And I told them, when we are going to negotiate, do not negotiate anything that will sort of punish Kenyans and become a barrier to Kenyans to access certain markets. And frozen was not an option. And Chinese did not ask for frozen. We volunteered and told China that we can actually freeze the avocados, which was a mess. We can, okay, my description is, why do you want to sell ice cubes to China? Because you're selling blocks. Why don't you sell to China produce what I would call a range of quality and variety? It is normally good and it is worthy. It's more profitable when you sell fresh because you have no value addition. It's easy for farmers. We failed as a country, so we must admit. It's true that the government has admitted we failed, and there's a discussion to renegotiate and allow fresh produce to get into China. There are certain things we need to do as a country that are led by the National Plant Protection Organization. In this case, for Kenya, it is KEFIS. We need to agree on the protocol, and we need to assure Chinese that the pest of concern in their country shall not find way from Kenya to China. That's all they need, an assurance from us that this quarant pest, and in this case there were scales, they will not find their way to China. And there's a way of doing it. One, you do a pest risk analysis, and if you have to do a post-treatment, a post-harvest treatment, then there are known products and ways of doing that, and our market China will open. I can surprise you that our fresh avocado still end up in China through other destinations. And as soon as the product leaves Kenya, for example, goes to Hong Kong, people in Hong Kong export into mainland China in the name of Hong Kong avocado. Mm-hmm. But because it changed hands as soon as the fruits change hands as soon as they leave the Kenyan borders, our fruits end up there. But who is benefiting? It's a third party that's benefiting. So we need to do certain things urgently. We need to do a pest risk analysis. There were 2 professors that we influenced, and they came to this country. They gave us a report of what it is, and they just need us to go back to them with feedback and say, we can now fix these challenges, and they will allow us access the market. So we have been lazy as a country. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with the Chinese. I will do the same if I was in the shoes of China. This pest is not in Kenya, it should not come to Kenya. So all I need is to ask the other trading partner to demonstrate how this produce will come to Kenya without the pest. So that's exactly what China is asking. All so right. It's our failure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right. Not Chinese failure.
All right.
Yeah.
And let's shift our focus now on flowers. Yeah. The restrictions in France, one of Kenya's big market in flowers. Yeah. Is the fate of flower farmers sealed with this restriction to sell their flowers in France?
There is no static position, as it were. When France did not restrict flowers. France basically announced non-essential products be withdrawn, should not be in the shops. Non-essential here means it's basically non-essentials. And at that point in time, flowers did not look like they're essentials following the circumstances. And these circumstances come into the second wave of COVID. So instead of rushing into so many restrictions, they basically looked at the internal systems and thought, let's segregate. But that is being resolved. And there's an engagement between us and the French state. The business community is negotiating and discussing. And it's a decision that was not made to punish Kenya. It's across the board. It's for all products that are non-essential. Of course, we feel the pain because those volumes that will go there then have to be diverted to other markets. But it's a very tricky situation. I cannot place a finger on it and say, this is the way it's going to. Because the spike in Europe is going high by day. And we do not know for how long this is going to take. We are, however, in constant communication. And the certain flowers are still ending up in that market, not in larger quantities as we ought to, but in quantities that are okay. And it's a logistical challenge. It's not a consumer challenge. It's not a challenge from Kenya. It's a logistical challenge within France, which they have pronounced themselves that this may continue up to 1st of December. May continue up to 1st of December. But if things change, they will be able to revise this as soon as practically possible. And I think it's our prayer that the constant high numbers of infections in France are contained so that the people can open space again for us. So it's not a Kenyan problem, it's not a France problem, it's a corona challenge that every country is reviewing on a daily basis. So I will not want to point or condemn. I want to look at it and say, listen here, let's keep a consistent day-to-day conversation with them, and we will keep updating you as it develops, because it's a developing case every day.
All right. Yeah. And staying on corona very quickly, what has been the impact of COVID-19 to the sector, the fresh produce, this of course being one of them? What has been the impact? I
can tell you for free, though there are some people who have suffered during this season, particularly in March, April, when COVID just happened and there was a lot of panic and there's a lot of restrictions in the world. But I can also report here that we have made more sales this year in terms of revenue than we did in the previous year at a time like this.
What do you attribute that to?
For my take is one, the prices went high. Traditionally, Eastern Europe and Northern Europe have a way where one side fits the other side. Then when you look at Eastern Europe, look at countries like Italy and countries like Spain, who ordinarily produce and supply to the other parts of Europe, they were the most hit. And therefore, they were not able to produce enough and on time. And there was a lot of panic and uncertainty that led most of their farms to remain idle at a time of dealing with a pandemic. And of course, people needed to be fed. So what happened? They had to look for another source of that produce, and that source became Kenya. So that gave us good prices. Even though we may not have sold much volumes, but we were able to sell at a slightly higher price and reported more sales in terms of value than we reported last year. Domestically, it's been a revolution. I have seen bankers, I've seen mechanics, I've seen different people from different professionals now joining farming, which is a good thing because it used to be called our dirty industry, and now it's no longer a dirty industry. People have realized that this is when we need to go. I've seen people who have gone into herbs, I've seen people who have gone into vegetable, I've seen people who are now planting trees, and for me, COVID has come to Kenya to revolutionize the thinking that people had, and we have done well in terms of logistical movement in the country, and we have been the only industry in this country that has remained profitable at a time like this.
Wow,
we have retained jobs, we have retained, we have remained active, we have had a lot of partnerships, and we sit today very comfortable knowing that the future is in agri. And I can confidently tell anybody who has thought about agri in a different way that we need to have a sober conversation, and so that we can recruit them if they are not converted so far, and show them the parts. What is critical is to be able to invest wisely and work together. But the horticulture industry, particularly the entire fresh produce industry, both in the domestic and the export market, we've done very well so far. And we're looking at a better season coming forward, even though now we are facing challenges in terms of rains. But isn't this a blessing to us when we're receiving rains, even though slightly higher than normal, but we're better off with the rains than with sun.
All right. Yeah. And in a half a minute, okay, Sekere, what's the recovery plan for the sectors, or rather the segments that were affected?
We are looking at how we partnering, and we've asked government to support us in terms of logistics. In the export, we're looking at how we partner with KQ in terms of pushing our cargo out. Internally, there's a lot of conversation between us and the counties and Revolution, but we're looking at 10% growth. 10% growth going forward for the horticulture industry. We have agreed on the communication, we have agreed on information dispensing, we have agreed on a marketing strategy, and we basically have come back and say, listen, let's sort what needs to be sorted quickly, dotted lines, so that we remain on an increased, constant trajectory in terms of telling our Kenyan story. Finally, what we have agreed is that, listen, this is Kenya, it's our country. Nobody will talk about us. We must talk about the good things that we do. We must bring everybody on board, and we must work together. And I want to persuade you as a media house to give us a slot perhaps in a week to be able to come and talk about the industry, so that people get to know what's going on, because ordinarily the media houses flash only the negativity and not the positive side. So I want to persuade you to come on this other side. Let's talk about Kenya, let's work together, and let's partner so that we can be able to ensure Kenyans are fed, the world is fed, we have money, and we remain consistent in the supply of fresh, safe produce in the global space.
All right, thank you so much. Okisekere Ojepat, the CEO, the Fresh Fruit Consortium of Kenya, speaking to Metropole TV. We've been discussing about the fresh fruit sector right here in Kenya. At this point, I take a short break. When I come back, I'll be telling you how commodities are trading right here in the country. In Nairobi, we have groundnuts, we have a lot to tell you just in a short bit.